Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music. We are very excited to review this next album by The Lonely Island, Turtleneck and Chain. I like this album. I like the concept. I like these guys. These guys are cool guys. I like comedy music. We do some comedy albums every now and again. Mm-hmm. They're very difficult to score, in my opinion.
Yes.
Because the whole purpose of the album is completely different, and you have to just embrace it a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, comparing this to other albums gets to be a little bit trickier too, because it's the different form of comparison. It's kind of how I feel about not electronica, post-rock too.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more difficult.
Exactly. And actually, it's kind of similar to what we were just saying about Lady Gaga's album.
Right.
That not only do the artists make it different, but the listener listens to it different.
Right.
And this is really something, when you have a comedy album, you're not going to sit and listen to the album front to back all the time. Right. You're going to pick out songs that you like, show them to your friends, and have a laugh.
Yeah. And that's one thing that these guys definitely are aware of in how they're approaching this. This is not something that they're just doing for fun. There's some business side to this too. That's just why you're seeing that they're aware of that concept, Tom, and they're making videos to the songs that they think need visuals. And the visual aspect of this is very important.
It is. I mean, a couple of tracks in particular, Jack Sparrow and Mother Lover, that they have videos for, which are hilarious. You have to watch them if you haven't. But at the same time, they don't transfer into a just audio format quite as well. I mean, like the first time I ever heard Jack Sparrow was on the album. I hadn't seen the video. And it took me a couple listens, and I still wasn't even catching onto all the movie references that like Michael Bolton makes towards the end. And then I saw the video and it made more sense. So, it's kind of a give and take, and it's tough because the way they made it is, they obviously started with the intent of the video and then decided to throw it on the album because, hey, it's funny. And I'm glad they did, but there is a give and take.
Yeah, and that song's almost more superior in its video format than in audio.
So much, yeah.
And I feel like you could probably make that argument. And maybe some of these songs that don't even have video components would have been stronger with the video components, like maybe Rocky. Now, I feel like some of the jokes on this album, originally, I'll just kind of give you guys some insight of where I came from here. I felt like at first, this album's full of these great guest artists and artists that where The Lonely Island are almost emulating the artist style of music. Like I Just Had Sex featuring Akon. Now I hate Akon with a passion, or his music, maybe not as a person, but the type of music that Akon makes, it makes me want to vomit. It does. When I listened to I Just Had Sex, it was very hard for me because I just can't. To me, I'm still having to sit through an Akon song, even though the lyrics are funny. And that troubled me at first. So I liked a lot of the jokes that are on here, but some of the music that I had to sit through, even tracks like Mother Lover featuring Justin Timberlake, I did want to point out The Creep has Nicki Minaj on it, but Tom, and it's also another point to our Nicki Minaj episode, Nicki Minaj does a great job on this album. She's a great guest artist. Yep. I just didn't feel like overall the whole listen was really strong. Now I will say that as I've listened to this more, and just as I've just lived life and just been around people and interacted with others, I keep referencing this album because the jokes just keep getting better with age. They're like a fine wine, maybe a little cheese. But I just
a lot of cheese.
Yeah, a lot of cheese. I just find that these jokes are really funny.
They are.
Track 15, Threw It on the Ground, might be the funniest damn song I've ever heard. And track 18, No Homo, what a great idea. What a great concept and what a funny song. I really enjoyed it.
And this is one thing that we talked about was how this compares, in the joke comedy aspect with other songs that are serious but are in the same kind of dance club genre. Because the funny thing is, they're making fun of it a lot of the time. I mean, Jack Sparrow, obviously, they're taking the most generic lyrics they can think of for those verses and then juxtaposing it with the ridiculousness of the Jack Sparrow hooks that Michael Bolton makes. And you see that a lot. When you really think about it, break it down, a lot of the lyrical themes here are the kind of things that rappers and club pop songwriters talk about. I mean, the first track, We're Back, they're talking about how weak and wimpy their dicks are. Well, how many rappers talk about how big their dicks are? I just had sex. That's really just the baser form of what almost every rapper is singing about any of the time. So you
Turtleneck and Chain.
Turtleneck and Chain.
Concept.
Exactly. Sipping on a light beer. Because let's face it, all the nerdy white kids like us in the club are probably sipping on a light beer, not drinking gin and Hennessy like most of the rappers are talking about.
Absolute.
Yeah. So, in that way, what they're poking fun at is so cool, and I would actually rather listen to this than a lot of the more serious stuff, because I've always felt like beats like this are really just childish and goofy when it comes down to it. You know, but usually what you have is artists singing about dumb things like sex and drinking and doing drugs, but they're singing about it so seriously over these cheesy beats, and I'm like, this just doesn't work. They just clash.
Right.
Whereas these guys, when they have the ridiculous lyrics to fit with the cheesy beats, it actually works for me. So I would rather listen to this. Plus, these are just quality tracks. I personally would take out the Falcor versus Atreyu and the
classy skits.
Yeah, and the Watch Me Do Me skits. Also, I didn't like Rocky and the Creep as much.
Sure.
I thought those were weaker tracks, but literally, nearly almost every other track, really
You don't want to get your arms T-Rexing though?
No, no, I don't.
One piece of musical philosophy that I've talked to Tom about and have been thinking about with this album is when you think about comedy albums in general, you know, and compare Turtleneck and Chain to other comedy albums, like something that Prozac's done, which we reviewed, something that it's escaping me right
Tenacious
now.
D?
Tenacious D. Well, that's not the one. The metal band, Psycho Stick, has done in the past, which we reviewed all these albums favorably, but the one that stands out in my mind the most, in the pinnacle of comedy albums to me, is Tenacious D's self-titled album. And I think that there's a series of skits, there's a series of songs, but what you really have to understand about those songs is the songs on Tenacious D's album are really fantastic songs that bring something new to this acoustic metal genre that really hadn't. You know, while traces of that have been places, you know, this brought it to the public's eye, and everyone flocked to that album. It was so popular, and I just think that the music was so good and the comedy was so good. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And I think that every comedy album should really strive for that. Where the music here is more just filler for the jokes. Here, it's more just a pedestal for these guys, for the Lonely Island, to just step up and give their jokes and their take. And it's a little bit less mature at times than I think some of the other more witty stuff that other bands have done, like Psycho Stick.
Yeah.
And that's just my only criticism of it, and really that's just a general criticism. I'm sitting at a 72 for this. I like it. I'm going to come back to it. It's not the best comedy album I've ever heard.
I'm going to go 78. I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, so that puts us mid-70s, which is good. Recommended. Check it out. Tell us what you think. What was your favorite joke on this album? What was your favorite track? Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Also, please follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, because that's where we get our musical discussions churning. We talk about music all the time, every day, 7 days a week, except for me because I'm on vacation while you're watching this. And that's about it for us. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
See the best parts of you are now a part of me. Oh my. And when it was cold outside, you kept us warm and held us down.
Hi, boys. Who wants to snack?
Mom, get out! Oh, the studio!